I'm so excited that this is our first podcast. It feels it feels really strange, doesn't it? Kind of.
I know, because we used to talk on the phone all the time. We don't see each other's faces.
Yeah,
And this feels very official. Very official
it
that we're on a
does. I
Zoom
think
call.
that's it's not even the Zoom call, it's the fact that it's well, we're not that we are not sticking to a strict script, but we have kind of set things we want to talk about, and so we're trying to keep it so that people can follow what we're saying and things like that. And compared to our normal waffle when we talk, that we just go
It's not
through
even
it,
waffle.
like,
It's just we cover like 72,622 subjects in a 2-hour period, and it just like woo, 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 woo. That's how it goes.
So
It's just
I
like,
think this will be a lesson in discipline for us, how
wasn't it?
to, yeah, how to stick to kind of one subject and follow it through. And yeah,
Just
so
tell me to shut up. Pamela, shut up. We need to stick to the script.
so we'll say hi to our listeners.
Yes, hello, listeners. Welcome. So glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, this is our Pamela's baby, our first podcast. Well, Pamela came up with the idea and
It's our
asked me,
baby.
yeah, if I wanted to join her, which considering she'd be like talking to nobody if I didn't, and I said
Yeah,
yeah.
a monologue.
Not a monologue. So we'll introduce ourselves,
Yeah,
will
do you
we?
want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. So Pamela is my older sister. She is a mum of 4 who are all grown up now, even though they still need her all the time.
Boomerang children. Keep on
Boomerang
coming
children.
back.
In Pamela's 20s, she struggled with alcohol abuse, self-harming, and other nihilistic pursuits that usually cause their harm. It took her to her 30s before she really began to get the help and work on herself that could help her with more healthy coping mechanisms, because that's what it was, wasn't it? Was the coping mechanisms that you used.
Yeah.
She's undergone lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, and lots of therapy. And lots and lots.
Lots and lots of therapy.
Lots
Lots
and
and
lots of
lots of therapy. I should have dividends coming out of the amount of money I spent on therapy.
And in the end decided to train as a psychotherapist herself, and run her own therapy practice. And really that's when she truly began to understand how everything works, the ins and outs, the connections between trauma, childhood, and how that makes us who we are today. Since then, she has used other tools to help, healthier ones, like meditation, journaling, and consuming very copious amounts of information, lots and lots of information from self-help books. So,
And
yes,
podcasts and
very,
audibles and
yes,
all of
yeah.
those places. Yeah.
And
Articles and Facebook reels and,
yeah,
anywhere I can get it. I'm hungry for information.
I'm a witness to the rabbit holes she goes down and comes back out of.
I know. Alice in Wonderland has nothing on me. Poor Cassie, she just gets dragged down. I tie a rope around her neck and you're coming with me. Let's go down here.
See this, look at this.
Look at this. Cassie's like, no. I have blinkers on, I don't want to look. You are wrecking my head. God,
So I
love
think
you.
Pam's well, she would say this herself, your experience through everything has given you wealth of experience, information. You're coming from a place of understanding from the very beginning, through all of the unhealthy coping mechanisms, to understanding yourself and the reasons why you use them, and being kind to yourself and moving on to learn to use healthier coping mechanisms and understand why you were doing what you were doing. So you're very well versed, I want to say, but I don't mean that, you know what I mean? You're very you're understanding, you are coming from a place of understanding when we're talking about different things. I know everyone's situation is different, but you're coming from a place of understanding all of the different various stages from trauma to, and even you say, even yourself, you continue to go on healing, don't you? It's not it's not an end.
No, it's not. It can't be. It can't be. And I mean, you know that yourself. So, mirroring what you have said about me, you know, Karen is a mum of 3. She is like balancing work life and home life like a boss. Because seriously, plates full, and you know those magicians that you see with like 52 poles on the stage and 42,000 plates going around. That's Cassie. She's just so good at balancing everything and making sure, very good with her children. Has been a super supportive mum to her children, and her children are an absolute credit to her. She loves reading fiction and non-fiction, although I think it's more fiction than non-fiction.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's more fiction than non-fiction. She loves losing herself in a book, and she deserves to for all the effort that she makes doing everything else, because you really work really, really hard. I don't think I know anyone who works as hard as you do. I really don't. She has like 52 jobs. Do you know what I mean? She has to pay the tax man millions of pounds because of all the jobs she has. I just, apart from being an avid reader, she's like multi-talented. She won't say that, of course. Do you know, she'll just say, oh, well, I like baking in my spare time, which is an absolute load of tosh. She's just spent the last year working in a bakery, running it pretty much, near enough by herself. Because her business partner, was on maternity leave. So she has learned supersonic skills, and whenever she puts anything up on the Facebook, I'm like, oh my god, that looks delicious. Oh my god, that looks delicious. Oh my god, that looks delicious. So you're like, oh, I like a bit of baking in my spare time. No, she doesn't. She's like a super standard. Cakes are fantastic, and she's got really, really great at decorating them. So lots of crafty skills. I mean, because of our upbringing, we've both had an interest in psychology. And I mean, although, you mentioned there about my terrible coping mechanisms, we were talking from a young age, sort of, well, maybe not teenagers, I would say late teenage, early 20s, about the effect of our childhood on us. Yeah. And you've always had that interest in psychology, and you've always had a psychological mind. We've always been able to have really good psychological conversations. And I don't know why, because, it's not like we had psychological parents. It's like, I don't know where it came from. I really don't know.
You're saying that, I feel, yeah, you're right. Mum and dad were not like self-aware at all.
At all.
I don't know where it comes from.
No, I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it several times over the years, and I'm thinking, where did we discover our psychological not knowledge so much, but even the awareness to know, the awareness to know that things were wrong. I mean, okay, you can say, oh, things don't feel right, or my childhood or the life we're living isn't great, but our conversations were far deeper than that.
Yeah.
And so you then took upon yourself to do a course, a whole year, a very immersive course in counseling and psychology as well.
Yeah.
So we both have that kind of training, and you're like me and continually trying to work on yourself, because it is a process of, you continue to work until yourself take your last breath. It's not one of those things where you've got it all fixed. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I can't, I went to therapy and I did this course, and I read 3 books and I'm all fixed now. That's not how it works. No, particularly if the narcissist is still in your life, yes, which makes it even more difficult, even if they're not in your life, but if they are, I think it's far more difficult to just say I'm fixed, because you have to still deal with that person, whether it be a partner or a parent or a sibling, whomever. I mean, even those who have ex-partners might still have them in life with children involved, or, as we know, the narcissist's hoovering technique, where they will try and suck you back into their life. We're very well used to that one as well, aren't we?
And I think as well, even if some people go no contact with their parents or whoever it is. I mean, I'm speaking from a parent's point of view, because the narcissist in our life was our father.
Is our father.
Is our father. But even when people try and go, or if they go no contact, or you go to counselling yourself, that, I mean, obviously we'll go into this in detail during the course of our podcast, but that, having that person bring you up in your most formative years, the closest person to you, having them bring you up in your most formative years, whatever relationships you go on to have, even if you're no contact with that person, it will affect your relationships whether it be with your partner, your friendships, your parenting, I found especially,
Yes.
just trying to not be like the parent that brought you up.
Yeah.
And then for me, I found that I've gone so far in the other direction, and I've had to come back and find a balance somewhere. So no matter what relationships you have in life, or what situations you come across, even your work life, it does form or mold all the relationships that you have. So even if
Yeah.
you've got no contact, even if that person's passed away, even if they're not in your life anymore, the effects.
Yeah.
And for people who have a relationship maybe later on with a narcissist, they haven't been brought up with a narcissist, but they've had a relationship again, it's trauma, so that will have affected them as they go on to have other relationships now. So I think you're always constantly needing to be self-aware, be looking at yourself, not telling yourself off, be compassionate with yourself, and think, well, okay, so this is the tools I've used so far, and they've done me well so far, but they probably haven't been the best for me, and so I need to find something else to help, and that's why it's just a continuous growth, isn't it?
So now we've done with the introductions, I suppose we want to talk about why we're here, why
Yeah.
we are here, why we are here, not while we are here, why we are here. So this podcast is called Breaking Free Together, which not only incorporates Karen and I breaking free together, but also anyone who listens or watches
Yeah.
our podcast, because we want this to be a very inclusive, immersive experience. As we go down the line, we are going to have lives, we'll have Q&As from our listeners, and we're really hoping that not only hearing our experiences will help people, but also any questions that we can answer will help people. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just hearing that somebody else has gone through something similar
Yeah.
is helpful to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because I think when we were younger, we had no idea that this was a thing that was, and I wouldn't say normal. Obviously, narcissism isn't normal, but it's become a lot more. Well,
Talked
people are a
about.
lot more aware of it. Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
a lot more prominent, but I think it's probably
Yeah.
been prominent a long time. But people are talking about it a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, my husband said to me when I first talked about starting this podcast, he said, well, you need to explain what narcissism is. I've never heard narcissism before you said it. And I'm like, well, where have you been? Do you
Yeah.
know? Because it's talked about quite a lot. It has been talked about quite a
It
lot.
has. Yeah. I hear
You
I,
know,
lo- I hear a lot of it, and I see a lot of posts come up on social media, just little sayings, or people talking about how they deal with it, and especially in terms of relationships people are in, romantic relationships that people are in.
yeah.
Definitely, because all little things like the terms gaslighting or different things like that, you hear more of those terms coming out now
Yeah,
as well, and people understanding, which is brilliant because knowledge is power.
it is.
And once you will start understanding those things, you can recognize if it's something that you've been through, or something that you need to heal from as well, and understanding that things weren't your fault, because we tend to blame ourselves, don't we, when relationships don't do well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
especially because, I mean, I've been writing some things down for a future project. And as my experience has been as a therapist also, is narcissists seem to smell victims,
yeah,
which sounds awful, but if you're already in a if you already suffer, I suppose probably the best way of putting it, if you already suffer from low self-esteem, or if you already self-doubt, or if you have any of those, I'm not a very confident person, a narcissist is a perpetrator. They're a perpetrator, and
yeah,
like any perpetrator, they go to people who they sense weakness in people.
they do. It's like, not you, not you, not you, but you,
You.
because they can, yeah, pick that
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's an experience, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing it. My daughter had a relationship ended after 7 years. It ended very quickly. They were engaged, and she was out of the relationship, I think a month, not even a month. And this guy came along, and she was still in a state of grieving the relationship, trying to figure out what the hell happened, not know how she was going forward, where she was. And he launched with a whole load of love bombing. Love bombing, for those people who don't know, is when the narcissist showers you with gifts and compliments and tells you you're the best thing since sliced bread. They put you up on a pedestal. They make it so that you turn to them for validation, because that's what they want. They want control of you. They want you to turn to them for anything and everything. And he love bombed her so much that eventually, you know, she was already in a weakened state. Had it been maybe 6 or 7 or 9 months after the relationship had ended, she might have been in a much different state and could have seen this situation and this person for what he was. I think it's different though as children, because as a child in our experience, we were weak in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
We were babies, children, young, tiny toddlers, didn't know any better. So ignorant in the way that we, you know, this was what we thought it was.
Yeah.
And if your parent is a narcissist, that is, you know, I won't say it's easier or harder. I'm not going to say it's easier or harder because it's subjective to the person, but in different aspects, you have weakness in different ways. If you already struggle with self-confidence, if you already struggle with low self-esteem, if you already struggle with not thinking that you're enough, either from your childhood or a previous relationship or a failed something else, then the narcissist sees that and just jumps right in.
Yeah.
You know.
And for you, it can, not you personally, I mean for our listeners, for us, it can be a repeating pattern, can't it? Because you learn, I mean, as children, if you're the child of a narcissist, it's a very first attachment style, in the very first way of bonding with somebody that you ever learnt. And so you will find that someone who's a child of a narcissist, whether it be their mother or their father, that they then go on to repeat that same pattern in their adult life. If you haven't, if you're not aware that you're doing it, you're not aware that it's because you're trying to take the same pattern and make it different. Like for me, I'll say from my point of view, and this is just my own personal experience, it's like I'm always looking for a parent. It's like I'm looking for someone to parent me the way my father never did. I'm trying to go down the same road and have a different outcome. But if you end up in a relationship with someone very similar, then there's no different outcome, because the same thing is going to keep happening over and over again. And that can be the case with someone who's been in a relationship with a narcissist, or like you said, has come out of a relationship. And because all relationships, even if they're healthy, if they end, you still have to grieve them.
Absolutely.
You still have a feeling of, why did it go wrong? Was it something I did? And if you don't take that time, or if you're not able to take that time, if someone's kind of almost targeting you because they can see that you are vulnerable, and then you can end up once in a relationship with a narcissist once, then that can repeat its pattern over and over again, can't it? If you manage to get out of that relationship, then you can end up ending up in very similar relationships with very similar people. So so that's why we want to do this together, don't we? We want, and I think you said this whenever you were talking about it in the early stages of discussing a podcast, that you wanted, it wasn't just about us getting together and discussing our experience. It was wanting to be there for other people, so that people didn't feel alone if they heard anything that we were saying that resonated with them, that they could come to a place where they knew people felt similar. A safe space, as you said.
I mean, I think we're very lucky, not lucky because of our experience at all, but lucky because we have each other.
Oh, definitely.
And a lot of people, a lot of people who have experienced this don't have maybe a sibling or a friend or someone close to that they can. I mean, we get on the phone. I mean, the other week, we hadn't spoke for ages, but the other week we were on the phone for 5 bloody hours. 5 hours.
No, come off. And I was like, holy cow.
5 hours. But that's because we can relate to each other. My experience was different from your experience, but not different from your experience. My experience is because I'm a different person. So I experienced it differently. You experienced it differently, but we both came out with very similar symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's
but
it.
we are fortunate that we have each other. So the podcast, I mean, if people haven't got support, my advice, and I don't want to be, oh, do this and do that advice person, but try and find somewhere to get support, because doing this on your own is bloody hard work. You know, if you haven't got friends you can trust, find a support group. If you can, I know therapy is expensive, but if you can, afford it, go to therapy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't have to go to therapy. If you can just sit with somebody that you trust, and if they can just sit and shut up and let you get whatever you need to get out of your system, that in and of itself is helpful. The other tools like journaling to separate you from your problem. I always find that when you've got so much crap going on in your head, like, it's like one of those big pneumatic drills, the guys doing the construction, like, and you can't hear yourself. Where journaling for me is the process of getting that drilling noise onto paper, and it separates you from the problem, because you now get it out of your head and onto the paper. And it helps me. I mean, I know it's helped other people because they've told me. So that is just one strategy. I don't want to call it a coping mechanism. I suppose it is, but it is a strategy.
It's a tool, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Because we need tools, and there are unhealthy tools and there are healthy tools, but we do. And the good thing about journaling is some people, like I struggle sometimes to write. So you're a writer. That's, another thing I didn't mention is Pamela's an author. So Pamela's a writer, and not that it makes it easy for her, but I sometimes struggle to know where to start. Even though you're no one else is going to read what you're writing, you still struggle, and you can get, and not that I'm thinking any of them, I'm just saying in general you can get them. You can get journals with prompts in.
Yes.
So if you struggle, you can look for them online, journals that have got little prompts in that can help you. And so if you struggle with writing, if any of our listeners struggle with writing, but you want to try it out, then maybe try searching for journals that have got little prompts in, just nothing major, just little bits, just to help you get going. And then the more you do it, the more you get used to it, and you'll find yourself doing it without really thinking about it. Then you'll be able to do it without those prompts,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm scrolling through our scripts to keep us online.
It's okay. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just
I'm sitting
5 hours later
there going, I need to just check that we're doing. So this is
what we said.
Yeah, just what we said, because otherwise the podcast will be 7 hours long.
But did we say that you said the podcast was breaking free, didn't you? Did you say that?
It's breaking free together. No, you're grand. That's okay.
That's what we were talking about.
That's
the other thing you will learn about me is that I can't remember 2 seconds ago.
Yes, but she can remember 25 years ago. She's a better memory than me.
Whereas Pamela doesn't. Pamela's forgot a lot of our childhood, and I'm the one that has to say, "Oh, do you remember this?" And which is actually another symptom of a traumatic childhood, isn't it? That you can have big gaps in your memory.
Because you block out the good with the bad. You block out the bad, and your memory isn't that great that it can just take these little snippets. It just deletes the whole document. It just doesn't highlight that bit and go delete. It just goes, no, that whole section is gone, and you're like,
the last 2 years have gone.
As you'll say, do you remember when we were on holiday and we did this, and this? We were on holiday. Where were we? Well, how old was I? We were 22. I'm only joking. But maybe that was one of my alcoholic phases. But
yeah.
But yes, absolutely. Cassie, I can't remember what happened 3 minutes ago, but she's amazing at remembering. But again, one of those trauma symptoms of. So if you do have, sections of your memory that you can't think of, if you have a traumatic or have suffered trauma, particularly in childhood, because formative years, as Cassie mentioned earlier, are from 0 to 6. So basically anything that happens to you from 0 to 6 years of age is what you believe to be true. So if your parent taught you that the sky was pink, that color in the sky was pink from 0 to 6, and then you went to school and the teacher said, no, the sky is blue, you would have a massive internal conflict, because no, you'd be determined that the sky was pink, because in your formative years, your brain is like a sponge and it just soaks up absolutely everything you're told, and you believe it because you do not have the capacity to argue with the point. You don't have the capacity. So yes, trauma, even after 0 to 6. But I mean, if you're in a situation, particularly like we were, where, you know, from probably before we were born, let's be honest, because, you know, we now know that children can hear things in the womb. So you're talking even before we were born, we would have heard, you know, or certainly experienced some sort of programming, because the way dad would have spoken, you know, to other people in the household, particularly mum. So yeah, you know, don't know where I was going with that. Where was I going with that? I've just gone off on a tangent again.
Talking about blocking out. People have a memory, blocks of memory that they don't remember from their childhood because of trauma.
Yes, we were talking about, you know, the fact that you could have trauma and not even remember you have trauma. Sometimes you need to look at the symptoms to figure out what might have happened, you know, which can be a bit scary sometimes for some people. But this whole podcast is about supporting you and being there for you, and us being a community. We want to build up a really supportive community to be able to help anyone out there who needs support, who maybe doesn't have it, or who does have it. I mean, you could have 100 friends who are great, fantastic friends, but there might be something in this podcast that will help you as well. So that's basically our aim. That's basically our aim. So Kazi, can you think of a key childhood memory? I'm looking at the script here to highlight, what am I saying? So key childhood memory that highlights the dynamic with a narcissistic parent. So yeah, is there a moment of realization that you had?
I can think of lots of memories where, when I look back now in my adult head, I can say, oh, you know, yep. I can't, I can't say, I can think of childhood memories to tell you now. I can't say that. I think I bumbled along the realization with you as we've been talking, as we've grown. I do think from early on, and this was unusual for us, like we said, I do think early on we knew. We probably didn't know to put a name on it and say narcissist, but we knew that dad was not
a twat.
Yeah, not a healthy person. I can't think of it. That is always it. You know,
a bully, big time bully,
whatever you want to call it. Yes. And I think we've known that. Well, and it doesn't mean that it meant that we've suddenly we knew, and so everything was great. It's taken from, but I think as early as our 20s, I think we both. So Pamela and I, both left home as quick as humanly possible. Pamela left home at 18. And I left home just before my 19th birthday and moved to another country to get away from him. Pamela then joined me in that country where she resides now. And I think once we were both there, away from Dad's kind of influence or whatever, I think we started talking, didn't we, about lots of other things in our childhood as well. But I think through all of that talking, we then came to the realization that, you know, things that weren't healthy in us, the way we thought about things or acted or felt about ourselves, were the result of the way that we've been brought up in our family home.
If I remember correctly, we started talking before that, when I moved home. And moved home. When I moved out and you were still in college.
Yeah, I think I
You
came
were
up to that a lot.
17. I
Yeah,
mean, the funny thing is, Kazi and I hated each other as children. Well, we didn't. That's
we didn't.
a
We fought, I
strong,
think.
strong word. I'm
Yeah,
jesting. I am jesting. But we did fight like cat and dog. And then when I moved out, we were the best of friends. It was, you
yeah,
know, typical siblings, to be fair. That's generally what happens to siblings. And then I obviously had my house with my husband and child, and you were in college.
yeah.
And the days that you didn't want to, no, the days you weren't in college, you
I
would
would
be
come
up
with
with,
you.
and
Yeah,
we started having those conversations then, and
yeah.
you were 17 at that point.
Yeah, we did. I tell you what I remember, and then this has made, and this probably from then on made me look back. 16, 17, going to college, I was doing childcare in college.
That's right.
And I had, well, they were more mum and my mum and dad's friends, more mum and dad's friends, and they had a little boy, and he had some disabilities, and she also had disabilities, the mum, and I went round a lot to help because they were our friends and I loved them, and because I loved babies and I was doing childcare and all. So through the summer or on my maybe in the evenings, whatever, I would go round a lot and I would help her. I would maybe put him to bed for her, or she would show me how to make the bottles, and it was like a bit of a friendship, you know. I remember my dad saying one day when I said I was going to, he really was getting on about the fact that I was going around there again and that I should be at home. I was 17 and there wasn't anything at home I needed to be doing. It wasn't like I wasn't doing like any of the jobs or chores or whatever that I was doing at home. I was a 17-year-old. I wasn't staying out late at night at a club or a disco but it's because I wasn't at home with him
Yeah.
and them. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, that is so strange. I'm not doing anything wrong. He
Mhm.
knows where I am. I'm in somebody's home. It's their friends. It's mum and dad's friends.
Mhm.
Why is he kicking off so much? And he roared and roared at me about me going to this couple's house and helping them with their child. And I think then the realization dawned on me that the only reason he could have was that I wasn't sat at home
Mhm.
with them,
Yeah.
giving him attention,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my children now are 12, 17, and 19. And my 17 and 19-year-old have got a life of their own. And I don't know, maybe this is unusual. I don't think it is. As a parent now, as long as I know that they're safe, no matter what they're doing, I'm happy for them to go out. I think it's really healthy for them
Of
to be
course.
out and about, to be doing
Yeah.
different things. And I don't think I've ever even thought in my head for a second to get cross because they're out doing things. I might get cross because they haven't done the dishes, but that's a whole
Or
separate
picked up their
issue.
dirty laundry. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but that's a whole separate issue to being out and about. I
Of
mean, and
course
we
it is.
wouldn't dare not do things in the house.
No
Absolutely. I mean,
way.
by 17, I was well trained to be
Yeah.
on it and have it done before my dad even thought about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think maybe at that point I started thinking that's not something not quite right about that. And then from there on, you start thinking over your childhood and thinking, you know, there was quite a lot that was quite not right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think we as young children, were fortunate in some ways when dad was working long hours,
yeah,
because sometimes he'd leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and wouldn't be home until sort of 8 or
yeah,
9 o'clock at night. The times he came home and had jobs where he was home 5 and 6 o'clock, that they were the harder
yeah,
times. And then when I was 11 and you were 9, dad was diagnosed with heart disease, and he had to retire at 45 years of age, which I think was the worst
mm,
part of our lives.
yeah,
From you know, because it was bad enough having him being a control freak when he came home from work, and we used to, you know, we'd be in the living room watching cartoons as children should be doing. You know, we've come home, chucked our bag under the stairs, ran into the living room, turned D'Artagnan on and the Three
yeah,
Musketeers or
yeah.
Scooby-Doo or whatever. If you're too young to remember that, don't worry, but it was good crack. And if we had the key in the door, because mum was always home, mum was a stay-at-home mum, as absent of a parent as she was a stay-at-home mum. If we had the key in the door, we'd all jump off the sofa as if, you know, and pretend to look busy. or look busy or be busy. Oh, you know, if I've left my shoes there by the sofa, quick, you know, and it was this absolute hyper-vigilant panic that then stuck with you for the rest of your days. I mean, it's taken me ages to deal with the hypervigilance all of the time, but it's like you had one ear, you're in a constant state of fear and awareness of one ear on the TV and half your attention on the TV, and one ear listening out for the front door.
Yeah.
Which is at 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 years of age.
It's ridiculous.
Hello?
Yeah.
Why would you, you know, a normal 6, 7, they should be playing and having the time of their life and sitting there watching TV and lifting their head up and going, well, dad goes in, says hi, goes into the living room, kitchen, kisses your mom, whatever. You know, that's normal. I say normal in inverted commas because everyone's normal is different, doesn't it? But to be at the age of 7 and 8 and 9 in primary school, and having that heightened sense of, you know, walking on eggshells, as the cliche is, isn't normal.
No.
It's not normal. And for the length of time he was home then, that was the state we were in.
All the time. That was
just the state we were in, whether it was he came in at 5 o'clock and then we'd all have to come out to the living room because he'd sit and put his headphones on and listen to music to wind down after the day, and we would be out in the garden if it was, you know, not freezing cold winter, or we'd be up in our rooms playing or in the kitchen or whatever. And then dinner time would have been another thing where we'd be sitting there and no A-bills on the table and close your mouth when you're eating, and you couldn't
move.
You know, it was very regimented. There was no kind of flow. You were always just sitting there eating dinner, waiting to get told off for something that you didn't know you were doing.
Either your knife and fork had scraped against the plate, or you happened to open your mouth when you were eating. I mean, and obviously we teach our children manners, but children are children. Every now and then they might open their mouth, or they might answer a question with food in their mouth or whatever. Do you know, but it was, I mean, it was, the
way he handled it was so immature.
It was humiliating. That's, you know what, I think if I had to think of one, and I know this is not what we're talking about, but if we had to think of one feeling, emotion that permeates the whole of our childhood, it would be humiliation.
Absolutely.
Because he absolutely reveled in humiliating us, whatever the situation, whether it was just us as a family together or in front of other people, he absolutely humiliated us no matter what. And I think I carry a lot of shame now. I carry a lot of shame. I struggle to talk if I don't know what I'm talking about. It's different to you. I'd rather just stay quiet, because for people to know that I don't know what I'm talking about, or the shame of saying something and sounding silly, or it permeates lots of different parts of my life. But I carry that because of the way that Dad was, you know.
So ordinarily, a parent might say, would you close your mouth while you're eating? Dad would go on. The podcast
disgusting, isn't it? That's what you're doing.
Dad would open his mouth and chew and
really loudly
mimic, you know, what he thought was the bad thing, and then
but not just mimic it, he would really over exaggerate it. You know, you'd maybe open your mouth for a second because you had a stuffed nose and you couldn't breathe while you're eating, and he would make it sound like you'd spat your food all over the table, or you'd, you know, and then he'd say to you, that's disgusting, isn't it? Well, that's what I have to hear when you, do you know what I mean? And you couldn't have felt any smaller, could you?
And the fact that he did it in front of everyone, I mean, okay, it doesn't matter that they were our siblings or that it was mum and dad, do you know, it was still the fact that he did it. You were humiliated. I mean, you can be humiliated with nobody else in the room, but there's 4 other people sitting at the table, and, you know. Okay. So what can you expect from this podcast? Kazi, what can we expect from this podcast?
Well, you've probably experienced a little bit already as
Just
personal
being completely
stories from,
bonkers.
yeah, personal stories from hard childhood and our healing journey. So we've shared some tidbits really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Just not because I mean, obviously there's only the two of us here but because you know, hoping that when people listen to it, that you can maybe resonate, some of it resonates with
Yes.
you and
Yes.
with our listeners,
Yeah.
and especially the healing parts, because then you could maybe kind of connect with some of them to maybe use yourself or realize that healing is possible.
Absolutely. And also, we're going to be giving you some practical tools for coping,
Yeah.
setting boundaries, rebuilding self-esteem, rebuilding confidence, and giving lots of, I don't like to use the advice, that's a therapist in me, because therapists don't or shouldn't advise. But we're probably going to throw out advice out there, and it's going to be a buffet situation. So, you know, when you go to a buffet and there's a plate at one end of the table and then there's a whole load of food on the table. So pick up your plate and choose what suits you.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it. Is, you know, there will be things that we might say worked for us, or things that we know have worked for other people, and you'll go, no. Like, so if I say journaling and you'll go, no way. I say meditation, you're like, no, whatever. You know, we might say something that you're going to go, I've tried that and it didn't work. That's okay. You know, that's totally okay. Not everything works for everybody. Choose what suits you, what will resonate with you, what you feel will work for you.
And have a go. Have a go as
Absolutely.
well. Have a go, and if you find it's not for you, then that's grand. That's no problem. But definitely have a go.
Oh yeah.
At different things until you find something that suits you. You know, and that's a good thing about listening to something like this, is that loads of things will get thrown out there, you know, and so it just may be something you haven't thought of trying before, you know, or a different way of doing things. So
yeah. I said before, it's all about community. This is yes, this is obviously going to be me and Cassie nattering away. You'll get used to our banter, because, you know, we just go off on tangents, or we'll just burst out laughing for random stuff. We probably remember stuff that you have no idea what we're talking about. Or we'll sit there going, oh my God, remember when he did this? Oh my God. And we'll be a Kevin and Perry and the situation. Again, if you're too young to understand that, look them up, they're really funny. But we want this to be a community, you know, and we have a Facebook group that you're very welcome to join. We'll give you all the links in the description box below. By all means, subscribe to the channel. This podcast is going to be available on YouTube and on Spotify, because I know that YouTube is great for watching, but if you're in the car or you're hoovering up or you're doing the dishes or whatever, a lot of people listen to Spotify just for the audio. Yes, there's going to be the video on the Spotify, but the fact is, if you're wondering, like, you to go walking your dogs in the morning, don't you? So sometimes, you know, you've got your podcasts on in the morning when you're out there walking the dogs. So
or you're doing housework or anything.
That's it. So there's going to be two options. You can watch us just sit here being really awkward because we don't know how to be in a podcast, and we're going to go like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so stupid. Or you can just listen to us being melons. You know what I mean? But, you know, if nothing will entertain you, we'll pass an hour of your day. No,
and hopefully you'll find a couple of gems in there. So
well, that's also, but that's really important. I mean, at the end of the day, I know we will keep it lighthearted.
Yeah.
But at the same token, we also understand how serious this is. We've both suffered. I mean, the bottom line is we have both suffered. Cassie has had her own suffering. I've had my, you know, I went on a nihilistic, I don't know how I wasn't dead before I was 30. You know what I mean? Really don't. Maybe I just was determined to be a stubborn cow and survive, just to spite my dad. You know, I don't know. That's the kind of person I am. I'm a stubborn bitch. But yeah, I mean, had I not made it to 30, I wouldn't have had this wonderful experience of life that I have. So, you know, we want you to understand that things can get better, because we've been in dark places, really, really dark places, but things can get better, and they will get better. There's not just the can and there's no, they will get better. They will always get better. A bit like the tides of the sea. The sea comes in, the sea goes out. That's the way life is. You know, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's shit, sometimes it's wonderful, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's dire. That's the wonderful experience of this mortal coil that we that we have, you know.
Yeah, that's it. And we, I think we probably, as we get a bit more established and a few more podcasts, we're probably going to do some question and answer stuff as well, aren't we? We're going to,
Absolutely.
and that might link in with the Facebook. Our Facebook group, we might ask members of the Facebook group if there's any questions they want answered, and then we would do it through the podcast. But whatever form it comes in, we would like to be involved with our listeners. We would like to hear some of your experiences.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just going to be about us sitting here talking about our experience. We'd love to hear about your experiences, any questions that we can answer, you know, with our kind of limited stuff, or just discuss for you, subjects we can discuss for you.
Yeah.
Then we'll definitely be doing that, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So teaser for the next episode is next week. We're going to dive into the Narcissist playbook and help you recognize. I'm reading from the script. Can you tell? I can't. I'm reading from the script. So we're diving into the Narcissist playbook and helping you recognize the manipulative tactics they use and how to protect yourself. Now, that's going to be probably an ongoing thing. There won't be just one. It couldn't possibly cover that in one podcast, but we're definitely going to start the ball rolling.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to start the ball rolling. Say that 3 times. My ball's gone. It's like down the hill, crossing the river.
Running after it. Get me back. Come back. Come back, ball. Oh dear.
Okay, so we're going to bring the podcast to a close. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks very much for listening. And we're really looking forward to our next episode, and hopefully you'll join us then. So, Cassie, closing words on a positive note.
She's probably on the spot there, hasn't she? Just my closing words are
okay, there is an example on the outline if you want to use it.
No matter where you are in your journey. Thanks. So no matter where you are on your journey, whether this is the beginning or you're in the middle exploring, we just want you to know that you're not alone. We're all in this together, and we're so glad that you're here, and we're so glad that you have found us, and that we can support you in every and any way. And I concur. So until next time, we'll say goodbye and thanks for joining us. Goodbye for hair. And goodbye for hair. Bye. Bye.